listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, this is Peter Towers for ESS BIZTOOLS and ESS BASIP. Welcome to this webinar today. We'll be starting in the next minute. We're just waiting for people to finish their registration process and we'll be underway. If you have any questions during the webinar, can you please type your question into your computer and I will answer the questions during the webinar. Okay, well it's 12:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time. We will get started. Welcome to this webinar on crowd-sourced funding, equity raising. I'll say that again. Crowd-sourced funding, equity raising. Thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, please type them into your computer and I will answer them later during the webinar. Wanted, accountancy firms committed to crowdfunding. That's the sort of banner that many small medium enterprises, entrepreneurs, inventors around Australia could run at present, because many of them are now starting to look for accountants or business advisors who can help them through this very important process of getting ready for crowdfunding. Now, crowdfunding is obviously brand new in Australia. It's never been done before. So no accountancy business has an historical advantage. No one's been doing it for the last 10 years in Australia. This is all new. And therefore, every accountancy firm in Australia is starting from the same position. So this is your opportunity to start creating a new range of services, business advisory services, to support the clients. This is a great service diversification that the government has presented to you, not the tax office this time, but the government, looking at how they can assist the entrepreneurial spirit in Australia. So please don't miss this opportunity to create a whole new range of services for your clients. And some of them, of course, might not be your clients at present. So crowdsourced funding is targeted at small, medium enterprises, companies with turnover under $25 million. Some of you might argue that that's not really small, but that's what the government has agreed to in the negotiations that went on for this legislation. Inventors, some of these people might not even be clients of your firm at this stage. And entrepreneurs, people who have got an idea about doing something with a particular product, service or process that they've been involved in. Now, I believe that these people are the traditional clients of small to medium-sized accountants in Australia, the exact market group that ESS BIZTOOLS presents products to. You're the type of firms that we think about when we're writing this material. Who's going to be able to use it? I was a practitioner in that space for many years, and I appreciate the problems that you have. So we believe that the vast majority of business people who are going to be interested in crowdsourced funding, equity raising, are going to be traditional clients of small to medium-sized accountants. I would call them your natural clients. So don't encourage them to go elsewhere. There's going to be a lot of competition shortly for companies who are thinking about trying to raise money through crowdsourced funding. The bigger accounting firms will get involved, and various business consultancy firms will get involved. But these people are your traditional clients, and I would therefore urge you to offer the services that they are going to need to them. They'll be far more comfortable dealing with smaller firms because that's the type of businesses they're operating. Now in the future, some of them might graduate because they want to do initial public offers to list on a stock exchange. That's okay. There's an opportunity there for you now to help these people. And obviously the way you're going to keep them coming back to you is if there is a wow factor in this, because you've offered them great service. And hopefully you will agree that the products which we are offering to you will assist you to deliver the wow factor to your clients. A few years ago, Deloitte wrote a report when they looked at digital disruption and utilised the term new income streams. Well, there's no doubt that crowdsourced funding is a new income stream for every accountancy business in Australia, if you wish to take advantage of it. So what you need to do as part of the income generation is work your way through a detailed checklist, which is part of the product package that I'm going to talk to you about shortly, to determine is the company a potential crowdsourced funding company. Because it's no use going any further if it's not. Now remember, if you've participated in some earlier webinars we have conducted on crowdsourced funding, that a proprietary limited company can be converted to an unlisted public company, because an unlisted public company is the only entity that can raise capital that's termed crowdsourced funding. The Treasurer has indicated that he has appointed a bureaucratic committee to review whether proprietary limited companies might be available or able to utilise crowdsourced funding at some stage in the future. Obviously, we will update our material if that amendment is passed to the legislation, but at this stage we're concentrating on what is the current law. And the current law says a proprietary limited company can participate as long as it converts to an unlisted public company. And there's been some exemptions given to that company for the next 5 years to avoid having to undertake some of the, what the government called, more onerous responsibilities of being a public company. And I'll come back to that in a moment. So let's look at the rest of the income stream, the type of work that's going to be needed. Whilst the legislation says that these companies do not have to prepare a prospectus, they've still got to prepare a fair bit of information. And as the vast majority of these businesses are going to be small, medium enterprise companies, inventors and small-time entrepreneurs, the vast majority of them are going to need assistance from accountants to get this work done. So the sort of information they need is a business plan, which needs to articulate what their vision is for the next 3 years, a budget and a cash flow forecast, looking at what the financial implications of that vision are. What's the company's valuation? Because that's going to be very important to determine the share price determination. If the company's going to try to raise $500,000, how many shares are going to be offered for that amount of capital? Then there's going to be an information memorandum that has to be prepared to comply with the requirements of the Corporations Act. There's also a role for accountants to play, and this has been the project manager, because there's work that other people have to get involved in to ensure that these documents are prepared. Part of the income stream is also going to be advising your client on how the CSF intermediary role operates. Now, a CSF intermediary is someone who has an Australian financial services industry licence and has a further endorsement that they've been approved to operate in the crowd source funding area. So many of your clients are going to need some advice as to what the role of the intermediary is. It's up to your client to appoint a CSF intermediary. And the intermediaries have got special dispensation. They're going to be able to advertise their services. And I dare say in the next couple of months we will start to see promotional advertisements and emails arriving from people who are crowdsource funding intermediaries, bringing their names to your attention as being people who can perform this role. Your clients are going to need some education on what the intermediary's role is, what their gatekeeper responsibilities are, because they've really been deputised by ASIC to carry out some fundamental checks to determine the eligibility of companies to be able to raise capital via crowdfunding. And our material takes into account those questions that we envisage are going to be asked. And there's some other work that could follow for an accountancy business. Audit appointments. Whilst there's a 5-year exemption that's available for companies that have converted from proprietary companies to unlisted public companies, and for the current unlisted public companies if they haven't already appointed an auditor, that exemption disappears once the company has raised more than $1 million. But also, some, if not a fair number of these companies might decide as a matter of corporate governance, accountability, good practice, that they're going to appoint an auditor from the very beginning. And in fact, I personally am going to be urging any companies that I'm advising to do that, because the local junior football club and cricket clubs and all sorts of other small organisations have auditors. I don't think it should be seen as an impost on these companies that they are going to appoint auditors. So some of you who have audit teams will be able to start looking out for audit appointments out of crowdsource funding companies. And the other big area of opportunity for accountants, I believe, is going to be in directorships. Many of these companies will be looking for directors with financial experience who can undertake the role of being a director within these companies. Remember, these are unlisted public companies, so they need to have 3 directors. Our material is going to encourage companies to be appointing at least one of the directors who has financial experience. And you might think about this if you're advising a client on this journey to become a crowdsource funding company, whether you want to put your name forward as a potential director. So let's look at the timetable. So you might start factoring this into your thinking. The government has announced that from September 2017, companies that have gone through the process and have satisfied an intermediary that they are a crowdsource funding company can have their information available on the intermediary's website. But there's a lot of work to be done between now and September. It's not that far away. Many companies will be anxious to start preparations now. This legislation was passed 3 weeks ago, and I expect that some of your clients might be out there now thinking about who's going to help them get prepared for crowdsourced funding. I think it's very important that you communicate to your client base and to the wider community in which you operate that your firm is committed to being involved in crowdsourced funding. Because if you don't tell your clients and the wider marketplace, they will not necessarily assume that their accountant, who traditionally might have only attended to the preparation of their income tax returns and maybe annual financial accounts, would be interested in crowdsourced funding. We're going to talk more about that a little bit later, but please bear it in mind. So let's look at a timetable. The month of May commences next week. Now, those 3 items that are there, I'm not suggesting that they're accountants' work. Although some of you may be competent and confident enough to be able to handle market research and marketing plan. And you may also be involved in the intellectual property review and most definitely preparing the records. I see that these items are listed there for you to give you an idea of some of the project management roles that you might play. Making sure these are documented, you assist the client to appoint a competent person to be able to undertake the market research. It might be the same person that does the marketing plan, might be someone else. Because the intermediary is going to want to know some answers to the questions that he or she is going to ask. How's this company going to operate? Where's its revenue going to come from? How much money is going to get paid? What substantiation have we got that a market exists for these types of products? The intellectual property review is looking at things like, what is the intellectual property within the business? Does the business have a research and development activity? Are proper records kept? Is it documented? Have patent applications been made? Whose name are the patent applications in? Because if this intellectual property is a crucial asset of this company that's going to try to raise crowdsourced funding, the intermediary is going to be very concerned to ensure that the ownership of that intellectual property is going to be vested in the company that is going to be trying to raise capital. The intellectual property review may also identify some ongoing research and patent registrations that have to be done over the next 3 years so that you can then mention this in the business plan. So there's a fair bit of work there to get started in May. And May starts in only a few days' time. Then let's look at what could happen in June. Based on the market research and the marketing plan, a budget needs to be prepared, cash flow forecasts. The business needs to be valued to determine what a share price might be. And I think if you have clients that are targeting to start trying to raise capital in September, they would be well advised to be starting to have some discussions with CSF intermediaries in June, probably towards the end of June. Under the legislation, the CSF intermediary can discuss their own fee with an individual client, and they will come to individual agreements. So it might be interesting to get 3 or 4 proposals. What are various firms going to do? What are they going to charge? There's the legislation they've got to abide by, but what other services are they going to bring to the table, and what are they going to charge? And all this is going to take time. When the Prime Minister originally announced this legislation in December 2015, he indicated that Oz Industries had told him there was at least 4,500 companies in Australia that couldn't raise capital in 2015, and this is why they were proceeding with this legislation. Now, a number of people have suggested to me that that figure could be a very small component of what the overall total market for crowdsourced funding is going to be. What this will mean is I think there's going to be a fair rush of potential clients over the next couple of months trying to get organised. So hopefully this timetable will assist you in your thinking. In July, the business plan will need to be finalised. It's going to be building on the other documents which we've already mentioned, and then looking to the future, next 3 years, and the information memorandum that's required by the Corporations Act. And I'm assuming both of those jobs your accountancy business would be able to attend to, together with the budget, the cash flow forecast, the business valuation, the determination of the share price. And then in August, we need to finalise the crowdsourced funding offer document. And whilst the legislation has said that there is no prospectus needed, all of the previously mentioned documents, but principally the business plan, all roll into the offer document. Obviously, there's some very key information that has to be answered. And this is all going to be information that the intermediary then places on their website so that potential investors are able to view this information. And your clients need to realise that everything they put into the business plan, the budgets, the cash flow forecasts, etc., will be listed on the website. Now, it's not available generally for the public. It's available to people who go to that site and log on and indicate, in effect, that they're a potential investor. But then they are going to view documents. Now, it's very important that the CSF offer document is professionally prepared, answers every question, and includes all of the information that is going to be required by an interested but not anxious investor who's going to look at the investment opportunity that crowdsource funding presents to them. And then in August, we also envisage that your client will be finalising the agreement with the selected CSF intermediary. They can only have one agreement at any one time. So they can't go out and have agreements with half a dozen of these intermediaries. It is only one. And that is where their company will be listed for a maximum of 3 months. It can be shorter. That's up to the company to determine. But under the legislation, the maximum period that the intermediary can list a particular company on his website or her website is 3 months. So let's look at some of the eligibility requirements now for the companies. I've already mentioned they will be unlisted public companies, but the government has indicated that they are going to encourage proprietary limited companies to be able to convert to an unlisted public company. Now, the companies must have a group turnover of under $25 million. And I emphasise the word group. So it's just not one company on its own. If it's part of a group, the income has to be under $25 million. The gross assets have to be under $25 million. And it's the current value of those assets. So there might need to be some separate valuations undertaken to see how the company goes on its assets. Now, this company is going to be able to raise $5 million from the crowd every 12 months. So it's a great advantage these companies are going to get. And the companies can still continue to raise capital under Section 708 of the Corporations Act if they wish. So that's the old 20 investor, 2 million maximum investment in a 12-month period. They could raise part of their money under that strategy and the balance under crowdsourced funding. But if that's what they're doing using section 708 subsection 1, their maximum capital raise is still $5 million in a 12-month period. Now the investor opportunities, because the material we have available for you also looks at all of this very closely from the investor's point of view, because it's no good for the companies unless the investors have also been properly informed as to what the opportunities are. And the opportunities are that they can invest up to $10,000 over a 12-month period in one of these companies. And there is various protection for retail investors. They have a 5 business day reassessment opportunity if they wish to change their minds on their investment. And there are very strong investor warnings that have to be shown on the intermediary's website when it talks about a particular company. There has to be investor warnings that are shown so that retail investors are given very strong notice that these investments are not without some risk. Now for sophisticated investors, they're also encouraged to participate in this market, but there is no limit to the amount of money that they can invest, subject to the overall limit of $5 million. There's a 5-year exemption that I mentioned a little bit earlier on what the government called the onerous requirements of the Corporations Act for public companies. These companies don't have to hold physical annual general meetings. They can conduct the annual general meeting over the internet for 5 years. They do not have to appoint an auditor and therefore do not have to produce audited accounts at the end of the financial year unless they have raised more than $1 million. But they could appoint an auditor if they wish. And they don't have to provide paper annual reports for 5 years. Their annual reports can be available via the internet. You might argue that some of those are not great exemptions, but that's what the government has announced. ESS BIZTOOLS and ESS BASIP have produced a crowdsourced funding equity raising package. It covers a wide range of matters to assist you to be able to deliver these services to your clients. It follows in the same type of strategy that we utilise to develop the early stage innovation company package, which we've had available since August 2016. So the crowdsourced funding system includes checklists, questionnaires, articles, a report template, which will assist you to determine, first of all, whether a company is a crowdsourced funding entity, and then give you a summary of the role of the intermediary so that your client can be briefed so they clearly understand what the intermediary's role is. There's a detailed list of the protection for investors, especially retail investors. And there is a summary on how unlisted public companies operate, because that is one of the key areas that your clients are going to have to address, the corporate governance requirements of an unlisted public company. We are going to present a 1-hour mentoring session for each subscriber to the crowdsourced funding equity raising package to assist your team to get started, to help identify clients and prospects. Part of that package will include a welcome to crowdfunding video, which will take you through some of the steps. We are producing a final webinar on how to use the package, which will be available so you can work your way through each segment. That will show you more detailed information than what we're doing in this webinar, which obviously is a promotional webinar. We've produced an article which subscribers will be able to place on your web page to inform your clients and the market in your area that your firm is interested in crowdsourced funding and would like to talk to people. We've produced an article on crowdsourced funding that you might like to mail or email to your clients and prospects, which would be an article that's obviously placed on your letterhead with your details. It's personalised, it's signed by one of the partners in your firm to inform your key clients and prospects. And we've produced a complete seminar, which you could also present as a webinar for you to run a seminar for your clients, or a webinar and prospects, to guide them through this process so that they can see that your firm is well aware of how this legislation operates and that you are committed to being a resource for their use. So that's what's included in the package of services to help you get started on crowdsourced funding. We anticipate that there will be some further amendments in this legislation, and as those amendments are made, we will update our material. So as a subscriber, you will receive those updates over the next 12 months. We're also including in the material a special free offer, if you like. We've developed a potential fee slippage and new opportunities calculator, which is being made available to every subscriber for crowdsourced funding. And I'm just going to check about questions, and I see we have a question here. I'm just trying to read this question. Can you please email me the PowerPoints? We're going to do that for each of the attendees, so we'll be doing that, thanks. There's a question about another website. That's not our website. I don't know whose that is. We are developing products to suit our clients and our new clients, and we are primarily targeting at accountancy businesses. So I don't know who that other... And someone else has asked me whether we're supplying a copy of this webinar. Yes, we're recording it, and it will be sent to you probably tomorrow, if not next week, early next week. So what we'll be sending to you after this webinar is the PowerPoint slides and the webinar recording. So your investment in this package for 24/7 access per office, you can have as many authors, users of the material as you wish, is only $399 including GST. That will give you 12 months access, and you'll receive the crowdsourced funding equity raising package. You can sign up for the package by going to www.essbasip.com.au, or you could subscribe to the ESS BIZTOOLS Gold package, which includes the crowdfunding package. This is our overall package that includes every product which we have produced within ESS BIZTOOLS. And the discounted upfront subscription there is $2,970, or you could pay it in 12 monthly payments at $261.80. And both of those figures include GST. To subscribe for that, please go to, I'll just get the right slide here, essbiztools.com.au. If you want more information, there's a detailed summary of what's included in crowdsourced funding equity raising package at www.essbasip.com.au. BASIP stands for Business Advisory Services Implementation Program. Or you can send me an email, peter@essbiztools.com.au. I'm just going to check to see whether there's any further questions. I can't see any further questions there yet, but if you think of some more later on, please send me an email and I will respond to you. So our commitment to you is that we're going to send you a copy of this slide presentation and the link to the recording of this webinar. We will promptly respond to any of your inquiries. And our mission in life is to supply accountants with a range of business advisory services tools that, based on my long experience as an accountant, I believe you will be able to utilize to supply services that your clients, the SME market, are looking for, and services that will assist your accounting team members to be able to say, I'm now doing real accounting work. So thank you very much for joining us in this webinar today. We look forward to hearing from you if you wish to become a subscriber to this product package. And I really do wish you every success in rolling out this package to a whole range of small, medium enterprises, inventors and entrepreneurs around Australia, so that by September they are ready to launch their companies to try to raise money under the crowd-sourced funding methodology. Have a great day. Goodbye.